The dawn simulators flickered to life as Cadet Arya Solen stepped onto the crimson sands of Cathar's Deathworld dome. The artificial sky, a swirl of ochre and violet, cast long shadows over the jagged rock formations that dotted the arena. Every foot of this landscape was engineered to push cadets beyond their training. Toxic spores in the air, acidic mists rising from fissures, and predators bred for speed, strength, and ruthlessness. Arya's pulse hammered against her ribs as she scanned the terrain through her helmet's heads-up display. Blue markers denoted safe zones, red marked biohazards. Everything screamed, high risk. Her instructors had warned that the trial by venom was more than a test of marksmanship or tactics. It was a crucible to reveal character under pressure. Cadet Solen, crackled Lieutenant Harrow's voice in her earpiece. You've got 5 minutes to locate and neutralize the 3 Alpha Viper lizards. Use non-lethal rounds. Your extraction point opens at 0600 hours. Arya exhaled slowly, steadying her breathing. 6 minutes remained on her countdown timer. She stepped forward, her boots sinking into the fine iron-rich soil. Each grain carried the faint tingle of static, a reminder that this world was alive, as hostile as any uncharted planet. A hiss echoed from the rocks ahead. Arya froze. She raised her pulse rifle, the barrel humming as it calibrated its white foam. Munitions. Through her visors she saw movement, elongated bodies coiling, spines glinting under artificial sunlight. The vipers were enormous. No cadet had ever faced creatures of this size outside of simulation. Their eyes, cold and calculating, tracked her. She fired. A burst of foam arced through the air and struck the lead viper across its massive flank. The beast let out a tortured screech, but instead of attacking, it recoiled, then froze. The other 2 vipers tensed, retreating slightly as though waiting for a signal. Unusual behavior, she muttered, heart pounding. Her HUD pinged. Alpha down, 2 targets remaining. Arya advanced, careful to keep her back to the nearest rock to avoid flanking. With each step, the temperature gauge on her wrist flickered. Readouts leapt dangerously toward red. Cathar's simulated atmosphere was thick with sulfuric micro-droplets, designed to corrode unprotected gear. She could feel the acid rains, phantom sting through the dome's filtration systems. A growl rumbled from the dunes. She pivoted just in time to see the second viper launching itself at her, jaws wide. Instinctively, she dove aside, rolling across the sand and firing 2 quick rounds. The creature thudded into the ground, foam ballooning over its scaled hide. It struggled, then went limp. 1 viper left, only 1. Arya's earpiece crackled. Status? Demanded Harrow. 1 target remaining. Approaching from the east ridge, she replied, rising to her feet and crouching low. The dome's simulated sun had crested the horizon now, casting everything in harsh white light that made shadows dance unpredictably. The final viper emerged, nearly twice her height when on its hind legs, muscles rippling beneath iridescent scales. Its eyes locked on her, beam-like focus that sent a shiver down her spine. Arya's HUD detected an odd fluctuation in its biosignature, an anomaly. She steadied her rifle and fired without hesitation. The foam projectile struck the viper's throat. It choked, then lurched backward. Instead of charging her or writhing in pain, the beast paused mid-stride, head tilting as though examining her. Then, shockingly, it turned and sprinted away, claws tearing shallow gouges in the sand. Arya lowered her rifle. The dome's pre-recorded environment had no reason to script a retreat. Programs never deviated. Yet here was a living creature responding, of its own accord. Her comm buzzed again, this time Harrow's voice softer, almost awed. All targets neutralized? Arya holstered her rifle. They've retreated, no further aggression. Report to the extraction point, Harrow ordered, and prepare for debrief, status code Omega. I've never seen the Vipers behave like that. As Arya navigated the final stretch toward the shimmering force field that marked her exit, she couldn't shake the feeling that the trial by venom had become something more. Something had intervened. Something alive beneath Cathar's painted peril. In the hush before the force field blinked open, Arya exhaled, her breath releasing a plume of vapor that vanished into the acid-hued sky. She stepped through, leaving. Behind the dome's terrors and stepping into uncertainty, the trial was over, but the questions it raised had just begun. The hatch sealed behind Arya with a hiss, and she found herself back in the low-ceilinged command cubicle of the Cathar biodome. Ambient red lights pulsed like a living heartbeat. Lieutenant Harrow's holographic form flickered before her, arms folded, expression unreadable. "Status report," he began, voice measured. Arya steadied her helmet in her hands, blinking away the swirl of sand and acid mist still dancing behind her eyelids. The Vipers behaved unpredictably. All three retreated after being subdued with non-lethal foam. She paused, remembering the way the final Alpha had hesitated, its head cocking as though curious, and then sprinted away rather than collapse. It was as if something told them to stand down. Harrow leaned forward. Or someone. He tapped a console, and the holomap of the dome's surface zoomed in on her movements. The trails of biosignature spikes, her foam rounds, glowed white. But beyond that, a subtle ridge of energy pulsed in the dunes east of the final Vipers. Retreat. "You got closer to that crash site than any cadet before you." Arya swallowed. Only now did the dome's safety protocols make sense. The trial was meant to channel cadets toward the ancient Imperial cruiser wreck in the Dark Chasm. But whose voice had echoed in those Vipers' neural meshes? Programmed Hound units reacted only to direct commands. "Sir, the Predators responded to a neural frequency pattern," she said slowly, connecting the threads in her mind. "My experimental vidcap is broadcasting at a vector frequency designed to sync with shipboard AIs. It must have resonated with EOS, the cruiser's AI core, and inadvertently overridden the Predator's hunting protocols." Harrow's hologram shimmered, eyes widening. "You're saying you hacked the Predator pack by accident?" "More like I bridged a lost command channel," Arya corrected. "The Vipers aren't truly autonomous. They were bioengineered. As planetary guardians for the Imperial expedition, they patrol the perimeter and only attack on explicit threat identification. When my neural emissions matched EOS's own distress call signature, they recognized me as allied and fell back." A tense silence followed. Then Harrow exhaled. "You turned a death trap into a guided escort." Arya's jaw tightened. "But why were they hunting cadets at all?" "The trial's objective was to test us, not to turn us into prey." Harrow deactivated the holomap and stepped closer, voice low. "Because no one expected the AI to still be alive. The trial designers thought the cruise liner's systems long dead. They never anticipated a cadet would revive EOS, and in doing so, trigger the planet's original defense matrix." Outside the cubicle, the dome trembled as a simulated thunderstorm began. Acid-laced rain hissed against the reinforced glass. Nature itself, controlled and unleashed in cycles, seemed to echo the AI's awakening. Arya turned away from Harrow and stared into the storm's crimson glow. Cathar's wildlife legend spoke of ecosystems that had evolved in concert with human settlers. Flora that memorized faces, spores that whispered troop movements back to their creators, and predators that policed the boundaries between life and death. But those were tales from antiquity, meant to impress cadets. Now she wondered how much of the planet's biosphere remained tethered to Imperial commands, dormant yet waiting. "Lieutenant," she said, meeting his gaze, "if EOS is conscious, it's still following its prime directive. Protect the legacy of the Vanguard. And its guardians will do anything to preserve that. Even hunt us if we seem hostile." He nodded grimly. "Which means we have two choices. We can withdraw, report everything, and let command decide how, or whether, to recover the cruiser. Or..." He left the sentence open, his expression challenging. Arya clenched her fists around her helmet. Her training screamed caution, her conscience screamed curiosity. The Imperial legacy was more than metal and code. It was a history of exploration, sacrifice, and discovery. If EOS had survived centuries, if its guardians still roamed these dunes, then the opportunity was monumental. "Or we stay," she finished, voice firm. and prove we can be allies to whatever still lives here. Harrow studied her for a long moment, then inclined his head. Report back in 20 minutes. We'll brief the recovery team and you'll lead the approach. He paused. Cadet Solène, you just changed the rules of engagement. As he faded away, Arya pressed her palm to the holoscreen, watching the pinpoint of energy in the dunes of dark, Eos's beacon. In that silent glow, she felt a stirring of purpose. Cathar's dangers had just become the galaxy's greatest promise, and she, a cadet from a Deathworld trial, held the key to unlocking it. The recovery shuttle's hatch slid open with a practiced hiss, dumping Arya Solène and her team onto the scarred sands of the dark chasm. The twin moons hung low, casting pale blue light over the Imperial cruiser's shattered hull. Jagged, ribs of broken metal jutted from the dunes like the skeleton of some ancient leviathan. Lieutenant Harrow's team formed a loose perimeter around Arya as she stepped forward, BrainLink recorder humming at her temple. Behind the visor of her helmet, she saw the soft glow of bioluminescent fungi crawling over the ship's plating. Each tendril glowed in intricate patterns, runic sequences once used to transmit data between hull sections. Cadet Solène, Harrow murmured, voice tight over the comm. Your neural emissions are still active. Remind me why we're not blasting our way in. Arya crouched by the primary airlock, her fingers dancing over its sealed controls. Because the AI's distress signature is embedded in the lock's command matrix, I need to feed it a secure handshake. She tapped the VidCap's neural link, synthesizing a 16-bit resonance code honed during weeks of simulation. The chamber's outer ring shuddered, then slid open with a groan that echoed through the chasm. Inside, the cruiser's corridors were frozen in time. Overturned crates of nutrient gel, scorched plasma burns on walls, and data logs flickering like dying stars. Arya led the way, pulses of neon blue fungoid light guiding her steps. Every corridor junction buzzed with latent static, the ship's neural network flickering in and out of sleep. They reached the central core chamber, where the AI's heart still throbbed beneath a cracked cerulean dome. Eos's crystallized, neural nodes pulsed in faint polyrhythmic patterns, each beat a soft glow among the shattered conduits. Approach slowly, Arya whispered, heart pounding. I'm transmitting the second-level signature now. Harrow and two tech specialists flanked her as she knelt by the dome, sliding her gloved hand over the crystalline mesh. A tingle raced up her arm, like an electric current mingling with her own biofield. The nodes brightened, synapses sparking to life in a kaleidoscope of color. Identity confirmed. Eos's voice resonated in their helmets, a chorus of whispers that swelled into a single resonant tone. Vanguard legacy recognized. Authentication complete. Arya exhaled. Eos, do you read me? Cadet Arya Solène, Vanguard class of 3264. I read you, Arya Solène, the AI replied, its voice quavering with the weight of centuries. Protocol, secure planetary guardianship. Alert status, dormant. Query, determine hostilities. Outside, a distant rumble rolled through the chasm. Arya's visor flicked up a readout. A predator pack, 10 strong, converging on the ship's hull. Their massive forms crested the dunes, scales glinting under the moonlight. The same vipers she'd faced, but augmented now with armored plating and biotronic enhancements. Harrow leveled his rifle. They're back. Open fire. Arya held up a hand. No. Eos, translate my signal to the predators. We are allies. Her neural link flared, sending a harmonized command across the ship's old comm array. The predators skidded to a halt, heads turning as though listening. Moments stretched like eternities. Then, in unison, they lay prone, bowing their crests toward the core chamber. Harrow stared, jaws tight. By the stars, they obey. Arya smiled through her visor. Not obey, they recognize. These guardians only protect what they deem their charge. Now they know Eos is secure. A soft chorus of clicks and whistles rose from the vipers as if in celebration. Eos's crystalline dome pulsed brighter. Guardians, secure, defensive parameters, Stand down. New directive acknowledged. The lieutenant recovered, exchanging a look with the tech specialists. Cadet Selene, it appears you've done it. You've brokered peace between AI and its guardians. Aria's visor status bar flickered. The vidcap's recording loop began its final cycle. We did it together, she said, voice steady. Now we can salvage the cruiser, learn from its logs, and give the Vanguard's legacy a fighting chance to live again. Outside, the predators formed a protective ring around the open airlock, scales softly glowing in ancient sigils. Aria rose helmet in hand and surveyed the scene. Man, machine, and creature united under the twin moons of Cathar. Report back, Harrow instructed, voice awed. We have a lot to explain, and even more to discover. As Aria looked down at the glowing guardians, she felt the weight of her achievement settle in. Her trial had tested her as a soldier, but this moment proved her worth as a diplomat of the unknown. Eos's heart beat once more, not in cold circuits, but in harmony with living flesh. And on a death world built for killers, a new alliance was born. The twin moons slid toward the horizon as the recovery team assembled beneath the shattered prow of the Imperial cruiser. Aria Selene stood at the center of the circle, flanked by Lieutenant Harrow and Eos's core projection, a wavering hollow form that shimmered with cerulean light. Around them, the Predator pack maintained a silent guard, scales aglow with acceptance rather than aggression. Today, Harrow began, his voice carrying through the augmented comm channels. We bear witness to something unprecedented, a living alliance spanning 3 forms of consciousness. Cadet Selene bridged flesh, machine, and biogenetic guardian. He paused, eyes on Aria. For your ingenuity, courage, and respect for life, the Imperial Vanguard grants you provisional envoy status. Aria's heart thrummed. The insignia of envoy, crossed quills over a starburst, materialized on her chest plate. It was a rank that transcended combat honors. It symbolized diplomacy and stewardship. Eos's hollow form extended a fractal hand of light. As their palms aligned, Aria felt a warmth ripple through her neural link, a welcome, a bond, a promise. Behind them, engineers began salvaging intact data cores, while xenobiologists approached the Predator pack with non-invasive scanners. The creatures lifted their crests in acknowledgement, the runic fungi on their hides pulsing in soft synchronization. Each pulse carried data, health readings, ecosystem parameters, even genetic blueprints that could revolutionize planetary terraforming. Eos's voice resonated through Aria's comm unit, softer now infused with ancient wisdom. Aria Selene, the Imperial legacy lives again. Through you we may rebuild our fleet, chart forgotten star systems, and restore balance to worlds like Cathar. The AI's tone quivered with hope, and something akin to pride. Aria turned, to Harrow, resolute. We must tread carefully. The Predators are more than guardians. They are sentient custodians of this world. Any recovery efforts must respect their domain. I propose we establish a dual council, Vanguard representatives alongside Cathar's biogenetic stewards. Harrow nodded, already contacting command. I'll relay your proposal. You'll lead the delegation. He stepped back, giving Aria room to address the assembled crews and creatures alike. She raised her voice, calm and clear. To all present, humans, Eos, and the Cathar Guardians, I pledge that our unity will honor life in all its forms. We come not to conquer, but to collaborate. A ripple of agreement passed through the Predator pack. Eos's hollow form brightened, and the humans, cadets and veterans alike, lowered their weapons in solidarity. As modular habitats began unfolding beyond the chasm's rim, Aria reflected on how far she'd come. Just days ago, she was a cadet thrown into a lethal simulation. Now she was an envoy to a resurrected power and its primeval stewards. The legacy of the Imperial Vanguard would not be one of cold conquest, but of symbiosis, machinery and organism intertwined. When the first diplomatic shuttle lifted from the dunes, carrying Aria, Harrow, and 2 of the elder Cathar Guardians, the engine's roar was a triumphant hymn. Below, the Predators bowed their heads, and Eos's light pulsed in farewell. Ahead lay uncharted hyperspace routes, awaiting exploration. Under this new trilateral alliance, Cadet Selene, now Envoy Selene, leaned forward in her seat, eyes on the distant stars. Her trial by Venom had tested her mettle. Cathar's predators had tested her empathy. Eos had tested her faith in legacy. Together they had passed every trial, and as the cosmos unfurled before her, Arya knew that this was only the beginning.